Right, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this council meeting on a very sunny, warm evening. And here we are in a great, brightly lit room. Before we have the opening prayer, I'd like to invite us all to remain standing and give a minute's silence to the memory of our former colleague and past mayor, Christine Jeffries, who, as we know, passed away recently. So if we could give a minute's silence, please. Thank you very much. So I'd now like to invite my chaplain, the Reverend Paul Massey, to lead us in prayers. So just wait for the table to be moved. Thank you. Shall we remain standing?
Gracious God, we boldly ask that you pour out your richest blessing upon this meeting. We ask that you would bless each person present with your grace and favour. The decisions may be wise, interactions be cordial, your presence felt in our midst. As we come before you today to discuss important matters, Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance and wisdom. You are the source of all knowledge and understanding. Therefore, we seek your direction in our decision-making processes. So help us to listen attentively to one another with open hearts and minds. May not be quick to judge or criticize, but instead seek to understand different perspectives. We pray that you will give us the discernment to make the best decisions for the greater good. May our words and actions be always guided by your love and grace. For this we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Paul, and please be seated. Right, thank you very much. So we'll start the meeting. Do we have any apologies, perhaps?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have apologies from Councillors Verdi, Councillor Rex Walker and Councillor Gordon Wheeler.
Thank you very much. Any other apologies? And I'll just hand over to the reminders of a few points.
Here, Mr. Mayor, I would like to remind everyone that YouTube channel. In addition, other people may film, record, post on social media or blog from this meeting. The use of any such images or sound recordings is not under the council's control. Any councillor who wishes to speak should raise their hand and your request will be noted. You will be asked to speak in turn by the mayor and then you may turn on your microphone. Once you have finished speaking, would you please turn off your microphone? In respect of voting, when asked by the mayor, councillors should raise their hand to indicate how they wish to vote. If a recorded call is requested, councillors' names will be called out alphabetically by the monitoring officer. Please confirm your vote. A councillor may raise a point of order or make a personal explanation at any time by raising their hand, and the mayor will hear them immediately and his ruling on the matter will be final. During any debate, if the mayor stands up, Any councillor speaking at that time must stop and sit down. Everyone in the room must be silent. I would also like to remind councillors to ensure that speeches must be directed to the matter under debate only. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So do we have any disclosures of interest? No. Okay. So item 3 is to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 21st of May 2026. Councillor Clark, would you like to move, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and a pleasure in moving those minutes.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan, would you like to second?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes. Minutes.
Thank you. All in favour? And thank you. And any for the record, anyone against? And any abstentions? Nope. So I'll declare that that is carried. So we're moving on to Mayor's announcements. It's been a month. It's gone very quickly, and I've done 10 official events, which you'll be pleased to know I will not describe each one, but I would like to highlight a couple in particular. And by the first thing, the main exciting thing was the visit to London for the MJ Awards, where Chief Executive and staff, Luke and Evie from Streetwise, went to the annual MJ Awards, where we were up for an award. And as you will have read, our excellent Streetwise department and team won the Best Council Services Award. And that's out against all other councils in the country. So it was thrilling. We genuinely didn't know how it was going to go, but you can imagine, you know, these award ceremonies, they build things up, don't they? You know, sort of finalists and the nearly winners, shall we say. But then suddenly it said, and the winner is Rushcliffe Borough Council. And I have to say, it was a very, very special moment. And I felt so proud and pleased for our Streetwise team, all of them, because we know that our residents really do appreciate what they do. You only have to see what's been said in the recent hot weather, where people have been worried and caring about our bin crews in the hot weather. So it was brilliant for the team and very, very good for the council. Looking a little bit further ahead, if I could just remind you, and I'm glad Reverend Massey is still here, because just remind you of my civic service, which is not far away now. That's coming up on the 19th of July at All Saints Church in Copgrave. And so it would be lovely to see as many people there as possible. You'll notice as well on your desks that there are sponsorship forms. I know you've seen them before, but hey, we have to keep getting the message across. Councillor Brown is still going to do this 24-hour bus tour on the 1st of August. So that's less than a month away now. And I have to tell you, he's taken this very, very seriously. He's been poring over maps, timetables. He's even got a thing on his phone now which tracks him. And we'll be able to do that. Anyone can. It'll be on the Rushcliffe website on the day, so anyone will be able to tune and see just where he's got to. So plainly, we're looking for people to sponsor him. And so if you are able to help or indeed share the sponsor forms around with people you know, it really would be appreciated, because we're raising money for what I hope we all agree is a very, very good cause, the guide dogs. I'm sure as well that Mrs. Brown will be very pleased to have the app on Councillor Brown's phone as well, so she knows just where he's getting to. And as I said before, bus passes are not restricted to working within the authority, within the county or within the area. You can kind of go quite a long way on them, so bear that in mind. Bit of fun for a good cause. And then finally, if I may, I think most of you will have read this on today's Councillors' Connections, but news came through of Christine's funeral details, and Christine's funeral will be held on Wednesday, the 15th of July at 12 noon at Rushcliffe Oaks. So I'm sure, I think it's fair to say that there will be a lot of people there, and quite rightly so. So thank you for that. So we'll move on to leaders' announcements. And Councillor Clark, do you have any announcements, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very brief to partly echo what you've just said about the MJ Awards. Absolutely proud of the Streetwise team for the Best Council Services team. Outstanding performance, and they do a brilliant job. And just to say that I will be arranging in the very near future to visit the Streetwise team in the depot to congratulate the whole team personally. But it's just absolutely fantastically deserved award. And just talking about awards, the second thing is that we can be expecting some good news soon on Green Flag Awards. So that will be coming up in the very near future. So just to let everybody know, watch this space, and I'm confident that we can have some good news actually reported in detail, of which we don't know the detail, all of it yet, but I'm sure that it will be good news for Green Flag Awards for this council in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. And yes, I'm sure that our Streetwise team will really appreciate a visit, and hopefully if I'm available, I'll be able to go as well. And you never know, we might treat them to something nice to eat before they go out on the rounds, but we'll see. Chief Executive announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one announcement. Just wanted to let members know that we've been successful in appointing to the Director of Development and Economic Growth, Deputy Chief Executive, Lorna Vertigan, who is an accomplished regeneration and place shaping leader, 16 years experience securing investment, currently working at Rotherham Metropolitan Borough Council, but has experience across both Barnsley and South Yorkshire mayoral combined authorities. So she's used to dealing with big projects and moving projects forward in programme management, economic growth, culture, environmental improvement and transport are just some of her skill sets. So really fortunate to have got such a great candidate and really looking forward to her starting on the 14th of September. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Item 7, we have no citizens' questions, none have been received, and likewise for petitions, no petitions have been received. So we can go on to the first main item on the agenda, which is the appointment to the monitoring officer interim, and we just need to do some chair movements, I think, don't we? Okay, all right, okay. Tell the restaurant to use the one. Yes, of course, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I was getting ahead of myself. So item 9 is the appointment to the monitoring officer role interim. And Councillor Clark, will you move the report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as you say, this refers to the monitoring officer role, and the report, I think, is pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to go through it in too much detail. But as you can see, this emanated from originally from the appointment of Sarah Pragan back in, well, 2 years ago now, but she has moved on to a new post in the County Council, and therefore in the interim, Charlotte Cavan-Attack took over a very sort of emergency temporary role, if you like. So we're very grateful for Mrs. Cavan-Attack taking that emergency role on. So well done, and thank you for that, to ensure that we do have that role in operation in the council. And you'll see then in the report that it has been a very long procurement process because we have been out to the market several times in trying to secure a new permanent monitoring officer, and that has been very difficult to do, and in fact has proved impossible at the moment to appoint a permanent post, and therefore we went out to look for an interim post in order to plug the gap, to ensure that we have that monitoring officer role, because it is a legal requirement of a council to have a monitoring officer. It's not an option, we need to have it. So I'm pleased to be able to say that after going back to the market again, we have secured the services of Mr. Ifti Ali, and this report now proposes that we approve that appointment of Mr. Ifti Ali as the interim monitoring officer for an initial temporary period. You'll see in the financial implications, paragraph 7.1.1 explains the financial implications, and therefore I move that we accept this recommendation for Mr. Ifti Ali to be appointed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Brennan, would you like to second the report?
Yes, I'm happy to second the paper. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Would any councillors like to speak? Councillor Walker.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'd just like to thank Charlotte for her service and contribution to the role of monitoring officer. Your ability to work flexibly across the council has been very impressive, and we're grateful that for your professionalism and commitment that you've shown. The Labour Group would also like to warmly welcome Ifti to this important position on an interim basis. At a time when good governance and transparency are more important than ever, it's essential that we support this function fully and continue to work constructively across this chamber. So thank you again, Charlotte, and welcome, Ifti.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to thank Charlotte for stepping into the breach as well. Thank you. It's a shame, really, that the council has been unable to employ a member of staff for this important role and has had to resort to an agency, or as the paper rather coyly puts it, the interim market. The additional cost is not a good use of public money. Councillor Clark, do you believe that the difficulty in recruitment is related to uncertainties over local government reorganisation? If so, please could Rushcliffe reconsider bonuses for staff going forward if they stay with Rushcliffe to its bitter end in April 2028, do not obtain a position with the new council and are not eligible for redundancy? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers or no? So Councillor Clark, would you like to respond to the question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, yes, obviously LGR is on the horizon. Well, it's supposed to be on the horizon, or the horizon is supposed to come to us in a couple of weeks' time. I'm not sure if that is still the case with the minor changes that are happening in Westminster in the next week or so, but we have to assume for now that there will be some announcement. Appointments aren't particularly relevant to this particular item relating to the monitoring officer at the moment. It's an interesting thought that you have raised, and I'm sure that we can have some form of discussion about that in the fullness of time as things progress towards LGR, and see whether any such
Councillor Brennan, you reserved your right to speak. Do you wish to?
Sorry, I didn't.
Okay. Thank you. And Councillor, anything else to add, Councillor Clark?
that was my.
That was it. Yeah. Okay.
That was it.
So we'll go to the vote. Can we have a show of hands? All in favour, please show. That's unanimous, but for the record, yeah, no one against and no abstain. Carried. So we're just going to get Ifti in now, and Charlotte's going to move her chair. Yes, it's still waiting. I'll be still here. Still waiting outside. So we'll move on to item 10 now, which is approval of scrutiny annual reports for 2025-26. Councillor Clark, would you like to move the report?
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mayor. If I just could take the opportunity to formally welcome Mr. Alley to the stage, shall we say? And I hope that your presence here is very successful. So moving on to this particular item 10, which is the approval of the scrutiny annual reports. And just to say, scrutiny is an incredibly important operation of any council and of this council. So I warmly welcome these reports, and there are all the various different scrutiny groups are listed here in the reports, and perhaps I could invite you to or ask you to invite the respective chairman of the scrutiny reports to see if there's anything they particularly wish to highlight once it has actually been seconded. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Clark. So, Councillor Brennan, would you like to formally second the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to second the paper and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. So, as Councillor Clark said, I'd like to welcome or invite the chairman of the respective scrutiny committees, if they would wish to speak to their reports. So perhaps Councillor Williams, would you like to come in, Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have the great honour of presenting the Corporate Overview Group's annual report. As Councillor Clark said, it forms a key part of any function of the council, and as the overseeing group, it overarches all of the committees that the council have. It doesn't just necessarily look backwards to what we've done, but also to look forward on how we can improve our services for the residents. We have often our annual meetings where we have items that come at every meeting, like the finance and performance management, to then the annual reports where we get updates on the strategic tasks of the council. We do also, as part of that group, also review all of the requests that come through from officers and through councillors, and I'd like to thank councillors and officers for all of the requests that have been submitted, and I can't reiterate any more than what I said in a previous meeting, is please keep those requests coming, and if there is anything that you wish to be scrutinised by the council and by any of the groups, please submit them, and then they will be taken forward and looked at by the group. I'd like to thank Charlotte and Democratic Services for helping at the meetings and being our lead officer and supporting all of the councillors on the group, as well as providing all the reports and everything, but then also thanking all the officers who come to the group and present the reports, and also presenting them, and then also we'd like to thank the councillors who sit on the group and thank them for their contributions throughout the year, and look forward to the forthcoming year and what it brings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Sims, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is the first year I've chaired the Governance Scrutiny Committee. I've sat on it for many years, but the first year of chairing it. I'll get the thanks done first. Thank you, Sarah and Peter, for the support, and Emma as well for the support as well, and thank all the officers for attending. Also, thank you to my vice chair. Without him, it wouldn't be as easy as what it is to chair, so I really thank Mike over there. So yes, thank you for and all officers and obviously councillors and outside bodies for attending. So there's the thanks out of the way. Right, Governance Scrutiny Committee. I see governance as the bedrock of it's the foundation of what a council does. Without good governance, you don't get your services. It's as simple as that. So because everything breaks down we waste lots of money and we don't get the services. As we all know, Rushcliffe is a very well run council. It's an outstanding council, and I'm always proud to say how outstanding it is. Chairing the Governance Scrutiny Committee is an honour. If I'm perfectly honest, I am a governance professional, so to chair that meeting is an honour. It's been very well attended for the year, with some good scrutiny taking place, and I do encourage scrutiny within the group. I don't just expect officers to bring documents and we go, yeah, and tick it off. Well, I encourage scrutiny, and I encourage councillors to actually dive into issues, because when you are so good as Rushcliffe, sometimes you can go to sleep. So it's really important. A good governance scrutiny committee keeps our eye on the game, and with the pending local government reorganisation, it's very easy to take our eye off the proverbial ball, just like Defender did last night. So yes, so that's that. It's been great. I'm looking forward to 26, 27, and hopefully we can get some good attendance and good scrutiny and continue improving it, because life is about continual improvement, and certainly scrutiny is about continual improvement. So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sims and Councillor Perrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to present the Community Scrutiny Group Annual Report for 25-26. Over the past year, the group has considered a range of issues that has had a direct impact on the lives of Rushcliffe residents. Our role has been to provide constructive challenge, hold decision makers to account, and support continuous improvement in the services that matter most to our communities. During the year, we scrutinized the performance of MTVH, examine the borough's approach to flood risk and resilience, consider the important issue of asylum dispersal and contingency accommodation, and reviewed progress on the council's carbon management plan. We also looked at proposals for the West Bridgford customer contact point, ensuring that accessibility and the needs of residents remain at the forefront of discussions. I would like to thank all members of the Community Scrutiny Group for the thoughtful and respectful way they have approached their work throughout the year. Our discussions have been constructive, evidence-based, and focused on achieving the best outcomes for our residents. My thanks also goes to all the cabinet members, partner organizations, and officers who attended our meetings, answered our questions openly, and provided the information needed to support effective scrutiny. I would also like to place on record my sincere thanks to my Vice Chair, Councillor Blunt, and officers Dave Banks, Charlotte Craven-Attack, Darrell Birch, and Jeff Carpenter. Their support, guidance, and professionalism throughout the year have been invaluable. They've always been generous with their time and expertise, and their commitment has played an important part in the work of the group. Thank you all for everything that you've done. Finally, I would like to thank the Democratic Services team, especially Emma, Tracy, and Helen, for the excellent support in ensuring our meetings ran smoothly throughout the year. I hope this report demonstrates the valuable contribution of effective scrutiny makes good governance, transparency, and better decision making. I'm pleased to commend the Community Scrutiny Group Annual Report for 25-26 to the Council.
Thank you, Councillor Perrick and Councillor Cumberland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been an interesting year for the Growth and Development Scrutiny Group as we continue to scrutinise matters affecting the growth, development and delivery of services across the borough, despite being impacted by matters beyond our control in the country and worldwide. Mr. Mayor, there is little point in my repeating a summary of our year's work, which is well outlined in the report before members. However, I would emphasise the importance of the work around the Freeport, which is of vital significance to the residents of Rushcliffe and has implications for the wider economy. The group are looking forward to further updates from the Freeport at our next meeting on July the 15th. I'd like to thank all the officers who've ably assisted the group and welcome Sebastian Saw, our liaison officer. I have to thank Councillors Way as Deputy Chairman, who retired during the year and has been ably replaced by Councillor Billings. I would also like to thank my committee members. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Camberlack. Would any other councillors like to speak? Councillor Gaunt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Vice Chair of Governance Scrutiny, I'm pleased to support recommendation to approve the annual scrutiny report for 2025 to 26. These reports demonstrate the scrutiny at Rushcliffe can play a vital role in good decision making. Across all our scrutiny groups, members from every political group have worked constructively to challenge, question and improve the work of this council in the interest of our residents. Good scrutiny isn't about opposition for opposition's sake, it's about asking the right questions, examining the evidence and helping this council make better decisions for the residents we all represent. The Governance Scrutiny Group has had a very successful year. We've asked questions that have been difficult and challenged where necessary and provided constructive oversight of the council's finance, governance and risk management. That's exactly what good scrutiny should do. I would like to place on record my thanks to the Chair, Councillor David Sims, for his effective leadership throughout the year. I'd also like to thank our fellow members of the Governance Scrutiny Group, the independent members, internal and external auditors, our officers and our Democratic Services team. Their professionalism and support have enabled the group to carry out its work to such a high standard. I'd also like to thank the Corporate Overview Group. Under the excellent chairing of Councillor Gareth Williams, the group performs the essential role of shaping our scrutiny work programme. I thank Gareth for the constructive and fair way in which he's led the work that we've done. One area that was particularly stood out for me this year was the effective work around equality, diversity and inclusion. EDI is sometimes misunderstood or often sadly used as a political football, but our role as scrutineers is to look at the evidence rather than the headlines. Our scrutiny discussions did exactly what they should do. They asked challenging questions about costs, officer time and outcomes. What we found was not expensive bureaucracy, but practical improvements for residents, improving accessibility, supporting carers, creating more inclusive play facilities, promoting awareness of hidden disabilities, strengthening community cohesion and encouraging greater opportunities for women and girls in sport. Most importantly, these benefits have been delivered at little or no additional cost to the council. That is exactly how scrutiny should work. We should examine the evidence before we reach conclusions. Looking ahead, I believe that there are also lessons we could take into the coming year though. Firstly, we should continue to ensure that scrutiny remains firmly member-led. Our officers quite rightly advise us on workload, resources and what is realistically achievable within the year, and that advice is both professional and greatly appreciated. However, councillors are elected to represent our residents and there will always be occasions when members conclude that an issue is simply too important not to scrutinise. A good example of this was the scrutiny request submitted by our colleagues Eastleigh Independents regarding management of public open spaces on new build estates. Members recognise the additional pressures this would place on already busy officer work programmes, but we also recognise the genuine concerns this issue is causing for residents across the borough. I believe we made the right decision to bring that through scrutiny, and it demonstrates that scrutiny should remain responsive to the issues of our communities. Ultimately, as elected members, we should be the ones to determine the priorities for scrutiny. Secondly, I think we should reflect on how we balance work across our scrutiny groups. This year, I'm nearly done, community scrutiny carried a particularly demanding workload, while growth and development had so little business at times that one meeting had to be cancelled, unfortunately, because there wasn't enough demand. If Rushcliffe was continuing beyond 2028, I would be arguing, as I already had, for the review of what the balance with within the system, the potential restructuring of our scrutiny groups, but that ship's sailed. Ultimately, scrutiny is about improving decisions, protecting public money, strengthening governance and giving residents confidence that this council is open, accountable and willing to challenge itself. And I think we do that, so I'm therefore very pleased to support the recommendation and commend these annual scrutiny reports to council. I did that without breathing.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Well done. That was good speed. No, I was going to be quite lenient actually. But anyway. Councillor Plant, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councillor Gaunt has just said, obviously the Labour Group supports a recommendation, but I'd like to make a few comments on community scrutiny. First of all, I want to say that Councillor Perek was a very good chair of community scrutiny. I know she's been elevated to a higher position now, but she will be sorely missed. She was forensic in her approach and extremely dogged and determined with both officers and representatives of those areas considered for scrutiny in the nicest possible way. Again, community scrutiny has considered many interesting and important issues during the year, all of which obviously are tabled in the report and have already been mentioned by Councillor Perek. All all of which have been very informative to councillors and provided committee members with the opportunity to ask questions and raise concerns. And that is important, but often that's as far as scrutiny goes and some of the topics that we actually do consider. And it doesn't seem to reach as far as impacting on the service and delivery for residents. I said all of this last year, I'm repeating myself, sorry. However, I think the scrutiny meeting held with representatives from Metropolitan Trent Valley Housing was an exception. It was a robust meeting, to say the least. MTVH didn't stint on the number of representatives they sent to the meeting. I think they thought there was safety in numbers. And members didn't stint on their queries and questions and concerns regarding residents' property repairs, complaints, lack of response to queries, and poor contact information. And it could have been left at that. But no, the committee agreed that MTVH should be brought back to community scrutinies later this year to provide an update on their performance and progress. And that was a very effective scrutiny meeting. I also mentioned last year, as did Councillor Way last year, that if nothing else, it would be courtesy to allow scrutiny vice chairs to see and perhaps even comment on their committee report before it goes out with the final agenda. Hopefully this will happen next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Plant. Do any other members wish to speak on this? No? Okay, so Councillor Brennan, you reserved your right to speak. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the point about the reports, I was assured that a copy had gone to all chairs and vice chairs in advance of this meeting. So I apologise if you haven't. We certainly did action that point, and I was told it had been actioned, so my apologies. Other than that, I've got nothing other than very to thank councillors who take an active role in scrutiny for all the reasons that have been outlined. Otherwise, I've nothing further to add. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan. And Councillor Clark, you have a right to reply to the debate.
Just very quickly, Mr. Mayor, as I said in introducing the item, incredibly important part or function of this council. And just picking up one of Councillor Sim's words, improving. This is all about constructive improvement of the operations of the council. It doesn't have to be confrontational. It's about development and working together to improve things in the council. And I'm confident that the scrutiny groups collectively, all members, are working towards that. So thank you for that, and hopefully everybody will be appreciating to accept the reports.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. So yes, we now go to the vote on this. So can we have a clear show of hands? Those in favour, please. Okay, and anyone against? Any abstentions? So no, that is the vote is carried. So thank you very much. And again, thank you to everyone who's been involved in the scrutiny process over the last year. It is a very important part of council life. We move on to item 11 now, which is notice of motions. I have been advised that Councillor Birch wishes to alter his motion. Councillor Birch, is this correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just some alterations to add a bit more precision and to add some measurable goals so that the core of the motion obviously remains the same, just adds a little bit more detail where needed. Thank you.
So with the alteration that Councillor Birch has just referred to, I need to ask Council for those in favour of altering the motion as just described. Can we have a show of hands, those in favour? And those against? And any abstentions? So the votes were 14 for the amendment, 22 against, and there were 3 abstentions. So the altering the motion falls. This takes us now to the this means we now need to go to the substantive and original motion. So which is Councillor Birch, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's not a problem. It's essentially the same motion, so it's not a problem at all. I would like to begin by just being absolutely clear. This motion is not an allegation of misconduct against any councillor. It is not an accusation that anybody has broken any rules. And it's not about naming and shaming individuals. I've consistently said this. Over the past 6 months, I've corresponded with colleagues and officers about this issue. And throughout those discussions, I've made it clear that my concern is not about whether councillors have complied with the current rules. My concern is whether the current rules themselves still command public confidence. Because there is an important difference. There is a difference between something being allowed and something being appropriate. History teaches us this. And I'd like you to take it back to 2009 and the parliamentary expenses scandal. I was 21. That was Councillor Brennan. That made up for the budget speech. I think it has.
It's probably best not to refer to ladies' ages, but anyway.
I remember exactly where I was when I read the news, and I remember the emotions I felt. White hot anger and disgust at what I was reading. MPs flipping their homes left, right and centre, claiming for tens of thousands of pounds worth of mortgage interest annually, £2,000 for moat cleaning, thousands on tennis court maintenance, £1,700 for an antique style bath plug replacement, tens of thousands of pounds in home improvements, design of furnishings, plasma TVs, and 5-figure kitchen and bathroom refurbs, and plenty more besides. Now let me make this clear. These claims were all legal and within the rules as they were written at the time. These claims were all legal and within the rules as they were written at the time. Yes, there was some criminality and several MPs were imprisoned, but the vast majority of the morally reprehensible claims fell within the rules. Now, before anybody misunderstands me, I'm not comparing this council with Westminster in terms of scale and severity. But the point I'm making is that just because something is within the rules as they're written, doesn't mean it's right. There are also some undeniable parallels. The rules that applied to MPs back then were written by Parliament, just as the rules governing us are written by this council. We write our own councillor expenses scheme, just as Parliament did its own back then. Yes, we have an independent advisory board, but we are not obliged to follow their recommendations. For example, we didn't follow the recommendations when we froze our allowances, which I fully agreed with, despite the recommendation from the independent board that we increase them. This council chose to take a different path. Unfortunately, the very same people claiming to have acted in a selfless, money-saving way are the very same people taking thousands in expenses. Many of the claims that caused public outrage in 2009 complied with the rules that existed at the time, and the public weren't asking, were the rules followed? They were asking, should taxpayers really be paying for this? This is exactly the question we should be asking ourselves. Not merely can we claim this, but should we claim this? Every councillor in this chamber is a custodian of public money. It isn't our money. It belongs to the residents of Rushcliffe. It is taxpayer money. And I believe we should hold ourselves to a higher standard than merely complying with the minimum legal requirements. The Freedom of Information responses I received earlier this year highlighted something I think residents would find surprising. They showed that almost all councillor expense claims over the relevant period were made by members of one political group. These claims included attendance at beer festivals, attending charity events, attending civic functions, and attending remembrance services. To be clear, councillors have chosen to charge the taxpayers of Rushcliffe, to attend remembrance services. These claims were entirely permissible under our current scheme, and I repeat, I'm not alleging any wrongdoing. But I simply ask members to think about how that appears to the public. If you knocked on a resident's door this evening and said your council tax helped pay for councillors to attend a remembrance service, what do you think the average response would be? I suspect many people would simply pause and say, how dare they? This isn't an unreasonable question. Being a councillor is a privilege. Representing our communities at remembrance services, supporting local charities, attending civic occasions. These are things that most of us do because we care about our communities, not because there happens to be a mileage allowance available afterwards. It's also important to say that we get paid to do this role, and the leader, those in cabinet and those who chair committees also get thousands of pounds of additional payments each year to perform those roles. Now, before anyone says this motion is anti-councillor, it isn't. Where councillors incur genuine costs carrying out essential council business, those expenses should absolutely be reimbursed. Nobody should be prevented from serving because of financial circumstances, and I want to make that clear. And that is not what this motion seeks to do. This motion is much more modest. It asks us to simply review our expenses scheme. It asks us to improve transparency. It asks us to publish more information in the public domain. It asks us to consider whether the current arrangements still reflect modern expectations, and that's all. I would also like to thank Councillor Walker for being my inspiration for bringing this motion tonight. And it's a shame he's not here because Councillor Walker does inspire me in many ways, but he's been my muse with this motion because he actually suggested it in our correspondence 6 months ago. He suggested that I request a formal review of the expenses policy, and that's exactly what this motion does. Nothing more, nothing less. It does not abolish expenses. It does not accuse anybody of any wrongdoing. It simply asks this council to look at its own rules and decide whether they remain appropriate. Surely nobody can object to that. Public confidence is difficult to earn and remarkably easy to lose. The best way to protect both councillors and the reputation of this council is not to resist scrutiny. It's to embrace it. The famous Conservative catchphrase, hug a hoodie. Hug scrutiny. Embrace scrutiny. Give it a big warm hug. Because transparency protects honest councillors just as much as it protects taxpayers. Chair, this motion is about openness. It's about accountability. It's about ensuring that every resident can have confidence that public money is spent carefully, responsibly, and with good judgment. I hope colleagues from every political group will support it, and I look forward to a civil and engaging debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. Councillor Chewings, you asked to second the motion. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the motion. I'll reserve the right to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. And I understand that Councillor Jay Wheeler would like to speak on behalf of the Conservative group. Councillor Wheeler.
That works. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to propose an amendment, please. Thank you.
Right, so we have the amendment on the screen now. So Councillor Wheeler, do you have a seconder for this amendment, please? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to second it, and I reserve the right to speak.
Thank you very much. So no one would have seen this yet. So we'll wait a few moments for colleagues to have a read of it. It's just been pointed out to me that the top line there that says this council therefore resolves has been crossed out. That shouldn't be, is not meant to be crossed out, just for clarity. Just for clarity. Councillor Burke,
May I
yes.
request a 10-minute adjournment as we've not had prior sight of this.
I think it's 10.
To discuss it.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yes,
Thank you
we'll
very much.
adjourn for 10 minutes for colleagues to discuss. So it's now 7 minutes to. Can we make it 7 minutes? No, let's be back 2 minutes past 8, and that's 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we want to start getting back to our seats, please? Got a minute to go, everyone. If we come and sit down, please. Okay, 10 minutes. 10 minutes is up, everyone. So if we come and back to our seats, please. So just wait for one more councillor to come through the door. 10 minutes goes very quickly, doesn't it? At times like this. Right, thank you for your patience. So Councillor Wheeler has moved an amendment. Councillor Wheeler, would you like to speak to your amendment now, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So first of all, I need to say we have absolutely no issue with scrutiny reviewing the current member allowances scheme, and actually welcome Councillor Birch's first words to saying that this is not aimed at any particular person or any accusations of any wrongdoing. I think that's right to put on the record. First of all, of course, we have our complete confidence in our officers and the internal audit processes who go over the member allowances scheme at present, but a further scrutiny, it's of course always welcome if full council so decides. With the amendment, the whole reason for this, we don't want to prejudge and predetermine scrutiny. There's a lot of detail in there. We're asking scrutiny to review the scheme, then tell them everything they should go and look at and everything they should do. So we don't think that's right. It should allow the committee itself to go through the detail. Every councillor is, of course, welcome to feed into that process, as they always are. And if anything, for example, in the original motion, and anything else anyone wants to add in, then of course they're more than welcome to do so. I'm sure it'll be welcomed by the chairman and members on that committee. So we can't ask committee, in our view, you can't ask committee to do something while tying the hands behind the back, so you must look at this, must look at that, which is the whole reason behind the amendment. One thing we have left into, as you will see, is require the claims to have sufficient explanatory detail, which we welcome that. For example, there was a reference by Councillor Birch to BFS, or now, of course, a reference, if a resident did see that, that might be, maybe someone to BFS or had too many beers, etc., on the public dime. But of course, what I imagine that refers to is there are civic events such as in Bingham, if I recall correctly, with the festival, which is a civic event, which also got a beer festival in tow there as well. So if we give that full detail, hopefully then residents will understand, not going there for a beer festival, there to do an event as mayor or leader or ward members, etc., and there to see the festival while they're at the same time. So that extra detail, more than welcome to give that full accountability to residents. In terms of asking scrutiny, I do also welcome the comments Councillor Birch made about making sure we don't vilify people for claiming expenses. It's a completely personal choice for people to claim expenses. I don't hear, other members do. That's entirely fine. I have no issue with that. But we have to remember that not everyone's got the same circumstances, not everyone's got the same backgrounds, and it is about fairness. If you can walk to the arena, is it fair that you can only get the same amount of money as someone who's got to drive here 20 miles one way or 40 miles round trip, etc.? You can decide not to claim, again, entirely up to them, but we have to give that fairness to people who are standing for office. And I say, bear in mind, especially with the role of a council now, the amount of meetings, etc., going on, that a lot of people may have to give up work, and there are some councils in the room who have to go part-time and give up some pay there that we do make sure that it is adequate there in terms of allowance scheme to claim. Of course, in any other role that people have in a wider walk of life, you always have an allowance scheme to make sure it's not out of pocket. Again, in terms of going to scrutiny, the reason we took out, again, I say, keeping about the quality reports, because it'd be key for officers, again, to bring that detail there to explain what that would involve, because that'd be quite a lot of work, imagine, to publish quality reports. And obviously we are talking about £4,000 here, which is the total amount claimed last year, so each quarter £1,000 go up there. Again, if that's what the members want for that level of detail to go to fully scrutinise that on top of the internal audit process, not the process, that's fine, but it's important we do put out there and weigh that out there in terms of the public expenditure, again, to make sure we have value for money. So We're happy to amend this. I hope everyone can understand the spirit of the original motion is there. We value the scrutiny process, and we want to trust our colleagues who are on scrutiny from all parties to be able to look at this without having been hamstrung and to come back to full council with their findings and report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Councillor Birch, you're moving the original motion. Are you prepared to accept the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I reluctantly accept the amendment.
Okay, thank you. So what we do now is we can open it up, as Councillor Birch has accepted the amendment. We can now open the motion to debate. So do any councillors wish to speak on this? Councillor Polenta and then Councillor Thomas.
I'm going to vote in support of the motion. I was going to vote in support of more enriched Ted Bird's motion, but reluctantly vote for that motion. I'm going to start from the end. As councillors, we don't bring motions to council simply to express opinion or sign our values. We bring them forward because we want those ideas, principles, and policies to be translated into practice. Our role is not only to debate, it's to make decisions that improve the lives of the people you represent. If we agree that greater transparency and accountability are desirable, then surely we should also be willing to set out how we intend to achieve those. And that's where the action points of these motions were essential, because they're the bridge between aspiration and implementation. They provided clarity and accountability and a timetable against which both councillors and residents can measure progress. And I thought the first component was essential, to have quarterly, timely, refreshed, directly accessible information to the public. I do not believe our residents elect us merely to pass motions. They elect us to deliver change. And it is a risk sometimes motions to become simply a statement of good intentions, good as those and valuable as they may be. So I do support this motion because it's about the standards we set for ourselves as elected representatives and the trust the public places on us. Transparency, I agree, should be the default. The burden should be on the public bodies to publish information, not on residents to ask for it. Following the rules and remain compliant does not necessarily mean we have acted in the most responsible way. Compliance, I agree, should be the minimum standard expected for us. It should be the floor, not the ceiling. As councillors, we should ask ourselves, not only am I allowed to claim this expense, but also, is it necessary? Is it proportionate? Is it in the public interest? Would I be comfortable explaining this claim to every resident I represent? Those questions, of course, go beyond compliance. We are entrusted with public money. That brings with it a duty to demonstrate not just that we have followed the rules, but that we have exercised sound judgment and acted with integrity. That is why I support the publication of councillors' expenses in a way that is accessible, clear, and open to public scrutiny. This motion is at its heart about more transparency, more accountability, and greater public oversight. This is the backbone, I think, of good governance. This is the foundation of it. I appreciate that residents can already obtain information through freedom of information request. But I do not believe transparency should depend on residents knowing their rights or submitting a request and waiting for a response. If we are serious about openness, information of genuine public interest should be proactively published, not disclosed only on request. So, alongside members' allowance schemes, pay scales, and other publicly available information, expenses accompanied by an appropriate explanation, justification, and detail should be directly accessible for residents to view. This is far more transparent and accountable approach. I also want to stress that transparency is not about casting suspicion on any councillor. I think it's quite the opposite. Transparency protects both the public and the councillors themselves. It's our safeguard. When information is openly available, there is less room for misunderstanding, speculation, or mistrust. Residents can see for themselves how public money has been spent. Public oversight should never be something we fear. It is one of the foundations of democratic accountability. As elected representatives, we should always strive to go beyond the minimum required for us. We should lead by example, recognizing that public office is a position of trust and that transparency, accountability and public oversight are essential to maintain this trust. For all these reasons, I'm disappointed this motion has been amended, but I'm pleased to support this motion and thanks to Bert for putting forward this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Polenta. And Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can absolutely see where Councillor Birch is coming from, but I can't support the motion. Allowances and expenses are important to ensure that the widest possible range of candidates from all socio-economic groups are encouraged to stand. There should be checks of expense claims before payment to ensure the claims are valid, and there should be transparency. And I would certainly support a review of the procedures for this. But there should be no shame attached to claiming expenses that meet the criteria. And I take exception to the implications to the contrary in the wording of the preamble to this motion. So on that basis, I feel I can't support the motion, even though it's been amended. I'd also comment that I suppose it's to be expected that the Conservatives claim more expenses than the rest of us, because as they are still just about the majority party here, they keep all the key roles to themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I don't think, has anyone else indicated to, oh, sorry, Councillor Gallen. So I didn't see your hand. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say, I mean, basically I agree with what you said, but I think that's kind of the point, because at the moment we're in a situation where, should we say, things are being said that imply things are happening. If we had proper transparency which explained where people lived and distances travelled and number of meetings attended, then probably some of the possible the accusatory side of this could be nailed when it does need to be, and not when it doesn't. Because I agree, I mean, frankly, I live right next to the arena, almost, and totally right next to the county hall. I claim no expenses. That would be ridiculous. If you live at the far flung edge of the county or the borough, of course you would claim expenses, or might need to claim expenses, or should claim expenses so everybody feels able to. But I think proper transparency would allow that context to be given.
Thank you, Councillor Garland. And Councillor Eddie Bean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to support the original motion only in as much as that it sent expenses back to scrutiny. I think when I first became a councillor in 2015 or 15, I was on what was then, or the predecessor to governance scrutiny group, and we looked at expenses then, and we had quite a thorough look at expenses. I suspect they haven't been looked at since then in the constitution. I might be wrong, but and you know, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be looking for scrutiny to have a look at the expenses. Personally, I don't claim them. I have in the past claimed occasionally, but as a matter of fact, I don't, and I don't. You know, that's my choice, and that should be everybody's choice. And you know, there's a suggestion that someone going to a Remembrance Day service, for example, should they be claiming expenses? Well, if you're driving 10 miles to lay a wreath on behalf of the mayor, you know, if you want to claim the mileage for that, then, or if you feel that you wouldn't do it if you didn't claim the mileage, then why not? But really, there should be a closer look at expenses and the scrutiny of them. And as Councillor Birch said, let's all embrace scrutiny.
Thank you, Councillor Eddie Bean. Now, any other hands up? No. So, Councillor Chewings, you seconded the original motion. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it short tonight. I'll be very pleased now. I actually have a record for finishing early. Just to say, obviously, I do support the motion, obviously, as amended. Just want to just quickly speak to, obviously, there's certain sections that has been removed as a result of the amendment, which has been accepted by Councillor Birch. And it's for the scrutiny group to determine how we're going to do this scrutiny. But just point out, I mean, obviously, in the original resolution about claimant name, eventual purposes about claims in the category expenditure to allow public scrutiny. That information is quite basic information that is required. But yeah, let's let the scrutiny group to look at how we're going to do that, and let's not henpeck them in there. But I would question when we move forward how we could have public scrutiny if that information wasn't available. So that's the first point. I hear what Councillor Thomas said. I don't agree with what Councillor Thomas said. I don't think it is about naming and shaming. If members are entitled to claim, then they can do. I personally never made any claims. Some have, some haven't. It's up to those individuals. But it is only right the members of the public see what people are claiming, what the purposes are.
A point of clarification, please, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't talking about naming and shaming. What I was talking about was the general tenor of the preamble to the motion, which implies there is shame in claiming everything. It wasn't about shaming individuals that I was making the point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Chewing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I've got that wrong, I do apologise. It's how I perceived it, and I'll say again, I don't think it is about naming and shaming. It's about scrutiny and allowing that public scrutiny from those that elect us. At the end of the day, we are accountable to our electorate when it comes to future elections. Obviously, where things are at the moment with the LGR, that might still change. We don't know, because obviously the chaos at the moment in Westminster. But we are accountable. We come back for re-election, and that's scrutiny. And part of that scrutiny should be about what we do claim. So I will be supporting today and ask you all to support it. It'd be nice to see unanimous, although we know it's not going to be. So I ask you to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chewings. And Councillor Birch has moved with the original motion, and you have agreed to the amendment. Do you wish to respond to the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for a productive debate, everybody. I would have hoped to have heard more input from the Conservative side of the aisle, but I think only one member spoke, and that was Councillor Wheeler, who moved the amendment, I believe, which is a little bit disappointing because it's an important issue. The Conservatives themselves asked me to do a formal review, and that's what I've done. I'm a little bit disappointed it's been watered down, but at least we've got some progress. I totally agree with Councillor Wheeler that nobody should be vilified for claiming expenses. That is not what I'm seeking to do, as I've already said. This is about scrutiny. And funnily enough, in the item immediately before this motion, Conservative chair people of the various oversight groups, scrutiny groups, said that the more scrutiny, the better. And then we've watered down the motion that gives less scrutiny. But we'll just gloss over that one. And I hear what Councillor Thomas says entirely, and it's a perfectly reasonable position. I do disagree with that, and obviously she thinks the implication is one way, and then she's inferred it to mean that was not my intention. I do not want to vilify anybody. If you've got claims that you want to claim and they're legal, and you go right ahead. There should be no vilification. I totally agree. Anybody should be able to become a councillor and have access to that role, and if they need to claim expenses, that is absolutely fine. I want to make a few other points just in my closing remarks here. And I hope we take this on board, and the members of the Governance Scrutiny Committee do take this on board. I was very surprised to learn upon coming to this council that councillors can claim for attending this building, which to my mind is the primary place of work in this council. In the real world, in the private sector, you cannot claim for coming to your primary place of work. You can't do it. So you could argue your ward is your primary place of work, but I find that very surprising. I would also urge members of that committee to apply scrutiny.
Clarification. Personal explanation. Point of personal explanation. I'd just like to, if Councillor Birch could also add that the 99% of the public sector also do not make claims of their expenses at all. I have to bring my own milk and coffee to it. So yeah, if you could just make that point now, that'd be great. Thank you.
Fair point. Absolutely fair point. What I meant was non-council, non-government world. That's a fair point. Thank you for pointing that out. You're not allowed to claim to your primary place of work, but you can when you're a councillor. I find that very peculiar. Now, obviously, the motion has been watered down a bit, and we can apply scrutiny through FOI and other mechanisms, and I will be doing so. And it is right to point out that 97% of all expenses are claimed by Conservatives, despite just only having half the councillors. And, you know, they might argue, you know, well, that's because we're in power and we've got more chairs and we've got more cabinet members, we've got more meetings. I'm the only councillor in this room who's got a 100% attendance record at this council. And I'm one of only 3 in actually the history of the council, as far as I'm aware, who have that. I attend training, I attend a lot of cabinet meetings to ask a question, etc. And I choose not to. And as does Councillor Walker and others, Jen Walker that is, and they choose not to claim. So I'm just making the point that that is an incorrect argument. If you do make that argument, I've heard that said, many members on this side of the aisle and many members who don't claim have equivalent or actually more meetings. So that's an argument that I just wanted to preempt there. So more scrutiny, the better. And I do encourage Councillor Sims and the Government Scrutiny Group to apply lots of scrutiny to this issue. I must as well raise, and I might want to make clear, I'm not making any accusations here, but I've done an FOI request to the County Council as well. And I have concerns about some of the things at a first glance I've seen for the dual-hatted councillors who sit on the County Council and this authority. And I think that needs to be looked into in terms of dual claiming for transport and other issues. I'm not making any accusations, but I believe that that needs looking into, and I do encourage members to take that forward when they scrutinise it. So I thank members for a effective and productive debate. And as I say, I do put my trust in the Government Scrutiny Group, and I do hope they can do a great job, as they always do, on scrutinising this issue, shining a light on it, and achieving what we're all trying to achieve here, which is more scrutiny, more openness, more democratic accountability. They are positive things to strive for, and that's what we want to achieve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Birch, just within time. So we now go to the vote on the motion, which was the amended motion, which is now the substantive motion. So can we have a clear show of hands of those in favour? Please show. Is there anyone against? And any abstentions? Two abstentions. So thank you for that. The motion is carried. So thank you, colleagues, for that. So now move on to questions. So this is questions submitted by councillors under Standing Order number 11(2). And Councillor Birch, would you like to put your question to Councillor Clark, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do the Conservative Group agree that parish and town councils play an important role in local democracy by providing highly local representation, supporting community initiatives, and giving residents a dedicated voice on matters affecting their area?
Thank you. And Councillor Clark, would you like to reply, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Birch, do you have a supplementary question, please?
I do, and that's wonderful oratory. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Do you believe that West Bridgford residents should have the same opportunity as residents in communities such as Cotgrave, Bingham,
Councillor Birch, I think you're straying away a little bit from the original question.
This was submitted prior and was signed off by the acting monitoring officer.
I don't know what we're saying. Sorry, can you say that again?
Do you believe that West?
No. What the point you just did?
I submitted this supplementary to officers prior, and no concerns were raised.
Okay. Yes.
If I can just say, so remember, a supplementary question, although you're quite right, you did submit it, you then withdrew it. And in withdrawing it anyway, regardless of what the supplementary is, it must respond to. So although you let us have sight of it, the supplementary must respond directly to the answer to the question that was given. To the yes.
So Yes, just to be clear, and just to aid the process, because I'm sure we all want to make sure questions are asked and democratic scrutiny is applied. I'm sure we all agree. This is directly to do with the concept of parish and town councils, and I was asking if they agree that West Bridgford should have one, because they agree with them.
No, but that wasn't part of the question, was it?
Mr. Mayor, please.
Thank you. In lieu of that, mate.
Councillor Birch is Councillor Birch is on the floor now to ask his supplementary question, but which has to be a question related to the answer to the original question.
Thank you. I'll rephrase. Thank you. Councillor Clark, you answered yes to my question. Does that extend to the provisions of a council at West Bridgford?
Yes, Councillor Clark, would you like to reply to that, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the original question asked if parish and town councils play an important role in local democracy. West Bridgford doesn't have a town council at the moment, Mr. Mayor, and therefore my answer, yes, related to the original question and not to any potential as to whether West Bridgford does have a town council or not.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Right, we have another question, which is from Councillor Polenta. Would you like to put your question to Councillor J. Wheeler, please?
So I recognize that in granting the 25-year lease of part of the West Park to Nottinghamshire County Cricket Club and the consultation process that preceded it, that the council complied with its statutory obligations under section 1232A of the Local Government Act 1972. I also acknowledge that the planning style consultation was not legally required and that no formal objections were received during the statutory consultation period. However, since the lease commenced, I have received a number of representations from residents, particularly regular dog walkers, who are concerned about the enclosure of an area that had previously been open and accessible. Many describe this space as more than just a recreational area, highlighting its role in a consistent theme in these responses is an element of surprise that they were unaware of the consultation process and therefore felt unable to comment before the decision was made. Given the apparent discontent between the lack of formal objections during the consultation process and the concerns now being raised, we're communicating clearly enough. For example, perhaps it could have been made more explicit that the area would become enclosed and managed as exclusively as a dedicated sporting facility, alongside clearer guidance of how residents could make formal representations. While again, I recognize that statutory requirements were met, does the council accept that there are lessons to be learned about how proposals affecting public open space are communicated? And will the council consider a more proactive approach to ensure all residents feel informed and able to engage in future consultations? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Polenta. Councillor Wheeler, would you like to reply, please?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Polenta, for your question. I mean, as you rightly point out, as a council, we did follow the process necessary in relation to the changes we made at West Park around the cricket provision. This included the required public notices, followed by the extra communications we undertook, including press articles and obviously the officer of a site meeting between officers, myself and ward members, which I know you accepted, and thank you for that. A lot of detail has gone back and forth, I know, between yourself and officers in the last few weeks or so, but for the public record, I will state that we feel the changes at West Park maximise the use of the site, allowing more users to enjoy the excellent cricket facilities we have, while ensuring the other facilities are still open to the public. We also looked at the balance because, for example, Colinton Common, which is just behind us here, and of course the route going around the arena and further on is there within a few yards of where we were at West Park. So we knew there was a alternative green provision nearby. And as you rightly say, we didn't receive comments at the time negatively towards that, and it was quite clear in the EIA assessment what we would be doing over there. So in terms of communications, we recently passed on a new communication strategy, and we constantly look at how we engage with residents throughout the borough, and we'll keep doing so, and taking feedback on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Councillor Polenta, do you have a supplementary?
Yeah, yes, I didn't, of course, I didn't argue about whether I personally or any other member of the chamber or any other resident may think that's the most optimal solution. I just argue about the discontent between not having any formal representation and objections and all of a sudden having a number of emails and a number of social media activity with an element of surprise. So let me rephrase. Will the council reflect on whether future proposals affecting public open spaces could benefit from additional communication or engagement, such as on-site notices or direct engagement with principal stakeholders, such as the dog walkers or other informal park users, so that residents not only have the opportunity to make formal representations and approve or object, but also feel genuinely informed and involved in decisions affecting public spaces that they value.
Thank you, Councillor Polenta. Councillor Wheeler, would you like to reply?
Yeah, thank you. And I think the reason I gave that level of detail, Councillor Polenta, was just to give everyone else who perhaps wasn't aware the dialogue we have with each other, the context behind obviously the question further. I think that's appropriate, especially for anyone who might watch online. So in terms of communication, I'd say, although I feel we did everything correctly to the point there, we'll constantly review, we'll constantly look at how we engage with the public, as we always do, because we have an excellent record of communications. And I know there have been some residents in your ward and Councillor Dennis' ward who have expressed some concerns, and officers, and my thanks Derek Hayden especially, who's been doing a lot of response, a lot of detail behind that, have been engaging with those residents, and we will continue to do so. So having changed the future in terms of any changes we make across anywhere of our state, we will constantly look at how we engage with residents, etc. And any feedback yourselves have or residents have, we'll of course take on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler, and thank you, Councillor Polenta. And our final question is from Councillor Gowland, who would like to put a question to Councillor Inglis, please.
Would the borough consider taking necessary measures to introduce laws or PSPOs where appropriate to require one person not to be in charge of 4 or more dogs on land managed by Rushcliffe Borough Council? I should just say, the purpose of the resident, somebody just had a guide dog puppy, traumatised by this, which is why I'm bringing it up. Thank you.
Councillor Inglis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Gowan, for your question. Yes, as this council is a responsible council, it did introduce a dog PSO back in 2022, which was amended back in July last year. That will stay in force for 3 years. So another 2 years to run on that. And that already includes a provision for only walking 4 dogs in specific locations, including Alford Road and Gresham Park. On other council-owned public space and land, the PSPO restricts the number of dogs to 6 being walked by 1 person. This number was chosen following extensive feedback and public consultation. An opportunity to consider any further change will occur when the PSPO is reviewed and potentially renewed in 2 years' time, for whatever council is operating at that point.
Thank you, Councillor Inglis and Councillor Gowland.
Well, I hope the number will be reconsidered then, but can I also ask the council to some publicity about this and also engage with other local landowners where people walk dogs to try and raise the issue, because this is a growing issue. I don't have a dog, but everybody knows that quite a lot of people are worried about large packs of dogs being walked and causing problems for people with 1 dog. So when could the council do some publicity highlighting the issue on their media, social media?
Councillor Inglis.
Yeah, we certainly made media releases before on the construction of the FPO. If there is issues, we can address those. I did a media release the other week for one that was up at Saxondale, where there's dogs fouling. We can address any local issues. If we do have any issues that warrant another look at things, we can do that. But say that's got to be something substantial. But yeah, we're happy to to promote that. You know, we want safe environments, we want our parks to be safe. That's why I brought the PSPO in the first place.
Thank you, Councillor Inglis. And Councillor Garland, can I just say I was concerned to hear your report about a guide dog puppy being traumatised, and indeed any pet being traumatised. It's really not good enough, is it? So thank you for raising that question. That's the final item on today's agenda. So we will bring the meeting to a close. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance and for your contributions. Wish you all a safe journey home. Thank you.